Yep.
Yep, we can do this again.
We should be, we are recording. It's welcome to the many shades of green. I keep on thinking the many shades of gray, the many shades of green, which is which is an old show, but it's a reincarnation of our 50 shades of green.
Divas, which
Green
is a
Divas.
separate, it's a Green Divas thing that's still sort of ongoing. It's a little getting into a different iteration, but I have my flamingo today.
Oh, good.
You know, I just want, we need to be saving all our creatures, and today I'm going to say that the flamingo is one of my favorites. So here it is. This flamingo is from Costa Rica somehow. I don't know.
Anyway, that's what you want to talk about. Yeah, more light. Anyway,
So-
Maxine, introduce our guest.
Okay, well, we're, the Many Shades of Green is, we have a tagline. We want to raise your eco-consciousness. And our guest today, Keith Voos, is an amazing person who does that. His background has been in teaching for so many years. He even helped with one of the first environmental Earth Days in Walla Walla, Washington. Is that right?
Walla Walla, Washington, Whitman College, Walla Walla, Washington, April 15th, 1970. Yeah.
I always loved that name, Walla Walla.
Me too.
Yeah.
I had to get that in. It was just
Yeah.
get in the
It's
Walla
entertaining
Walla.
for folks. Yeah, it's entertaining for folks.
Does
Little
that
town in
mean
the southeast corner of Washington State.
does that mean anything, Walla Walla, or?
Yes, it's a indigenous word meaning many waters. There are several streams and rivers, including some fairly large ones that come together right in that area. So it's a green and fertile area in in a spot that's not all that green and fertile before irrigation.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. I never knew that. You see, it's the education that comes out in these little, wonderful tidbits here. So, but he also, works with, we'll get into more, but he works with the Drawdown Project and through via Pachamama, and a good friend of our show, Green Diva Ellie Lesson. And at this point, we know there's so much to be done, but there's a lot of things we can do. And we'll get into it in a bit. I just wanted to ask Malcolm a quick question. Hey, Malcolm.
I'm here.
What is I can ask you too, Keith. During this pandemic, what is the most popular pandemic pet?
I say it's the pet rock.
No, it's not any guess, Keith?
Most popular pet.
Pandemic pet.
Pandemic pet. Turtle.
Well, you're actually close. It's it's not a dog or a cat or an aardvark or a possum. It's super garden snail.
Garden snail?
Yeah. I would never have in a million years thought it would be the garden snail, but yet people have captured that into their Instagram and all over. This young lady found a garden snail on some lettuce where she was working and brought it home and started taking care of it and watching it every day. And it went, viral. So now people are getting, going into their gardens or getting, snails.
I guess it can be calming seeing them move because they're in no hurry, and right now we're in no hurry.
Exactly. So you could be watching it the whole day. It'll take 2 hours to go an inch or something. It's just something that has captured the psyche of people because people are going a little bonkers right now.
Well, I don't know about where you guys live, but I get fascinated by car chases.
Oh,
they are so ridiculous the way the LAPD or the sheriff's department pursue these people. But I could stay, for an hour and a half just watching them do the loop.
I can't.
I'm waiting.
You have a pandemic passion, Keith?
Well, early in the pandemic, I started collecting homonyms. They're now actually called something else. They were called homonyms during most of my educational career. Two words that sound alike but have different
Right.
spellings and different meanings.
Okay.
And I got, I think, to a couple hundred, and I tried to, I invited a couple of my friends
Uh-huh.
to contribute to the list, but I couldn't get them hooked. They didn't see the appeal, I guess. So after I got to around 200, I stopped. But there are thousands of them.
Sure.
And that was yeah, there are thousands of them. And
You can go on for a while, I'm sure.
mhm.
You know, that's
Yep.
interesting. Any particular example you can?
Let's
Which
see.
one?
Let's see.
Humana.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well,
Okay.
I mean,
Put me on the spot. We didn't.
yeah, it doesn't
We
really
want to
matter.
talk
It's
about
not
the
going to
climate.
affect most of our. I
Okay,
think we should move on. I think we should
We'll
move on
talk
to the
about
substance
that.
that matters here. I don't want to seem controlling of the interview, but I think we should move on to
So
substance.
Yeah,
getting
let's
back
go.
to environments, does Pachamama mean anything? Is that a name?
Yes, it's a word of the Quechua indigenous people of Bolivia and Peru, and in their worldview, it means a lot. It tends to get translated into English as Mother Earth, but since indigenous people have a very holistic view of life and of nature, they understand that Mother Nature includes, wouldn't be here, wouldn't be thriving without sunlight, without air, and so their word Pachamama encompasses basically everything that has arisen since
Beginning of time.
the beginning, the Big Bang, and
Yep.
it results in our Earth, among other things. But it gets translated into English as Mother Earth, Pachamama.
So again, you taught for many years, and were, we thank you for being such an educator of the youngins, and now a mixture of people. But just what was your kind of aha moment? I know you work with Pachamama, but how did that Pachamama like get you to this point of where you are as a facilitator and teacher in the environmental world?
Well, I had a smaller aha moment. I have two adult daughters now, and I think it was the younger one when she was about 7 or 8, maybe 9 or 10, and her elementary school did quite a bit with environmental awareness, and so she brought home things from the lessons and activities. We talked about them a little bit. And then one day, I think we were outside doing something, and just out of the blue, she said to me, "Daddy, are there going to be trees when I grow up? Are there going to be any trees left when I grow up?" And
Wow.
that really got to me.
Yeah,
And I quickly said, I'm so glad it's turned out to be true. I quickly said, "Yes, honey, there will be trees when you grow up." And fortunately, there are still trees, although that's still an issue. Trees are still an issue. But really, and so I started paying more attention then, but I didn't get into action. I was like a lot of people. I was aware that there was an environmental issue, but I couldn't quite figure out what I could do about it. And then in December of 2009, I started having a feeling, an intuition type feeling, that something that I had read recently was going to be important to me and to my life. And so I don't read just one thing at a time. I don't even read books one thing at a time. I have 3 or 4 books sitting near my chair in my living room, and a stack of magazines, and I read them whatever appeals to me at the moment. And so I started going through the stack of periodicals and books to try to find what it was that I had read that now was, I guess, calling me back. And I found an article in Friends Journal. Friends Journal is a publication of the Religious Society of Friends, also known as Quakers. I'm a member of a Quaker meeting where I live. And there was an article in there by a woman who'd been involved in environmental issues for quite some time. And she was writing about, it was one of these how to get back into right relationship with the earth kinds of articles. And at the end, she listed 10 things that she wanted people to consider doing to get involved. And the second thing on her list was attend a Pachamama Alliance Awakening the Dreamer symposium. And, you know, a little description of what it was and what they did. So I went on the net and found that there was one within not too great a driving distance from me, just in a couple of weeks. So I signed up for it. And I went to it, and it was honestly the most dramatic turning point in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, it really was, because
That's a wow.
it's designed to do that for people who are open to what Pachamama Alliance is saying in that introductory workshop, can have that kind of turning point moment. And I did, and the precise turning point moment within the whole, it was a 5-hour workshop from morning with a lunch break and into the afternoon. The precise moment was when Joanna Macy, they presented a video of Joanna Macy and talking about the environmental crisis and the whole thing. And she said, it's really important for you. What I want to say to you is, if you have been hiding from your grief about what is happening to the planet, stop hiding. Let yourself feel the full depth of that grief.
Amen.
And once you let yourself feel that, the energy that you've been using to suppress that grief will transmute into energy that you will use to get into action and do your best to make a positive difference. And at that moment, when she was through saying that, I burst into tears.
Wow.
I just burst into tears. And for the rest of the morning session, I don't know, she's fairly near the end. I've given the symposium a number of times, fairly near the end of the morning session. So there was maybe another 45 minutes of my just weeping unrestrainedly, and people bringing Kleenexes to me from all across the room. And finally, one of the facilitators came and gently said, let's move a little bit. So I moved to the back of the room in a little, I think it was a little kitchen in the church that we were in, so that I wouldn't be quite so distracting to people, and just got out. This was only 11 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I had quite a long period of time to have been storing up that grief and not knowing what to do with it. And the floodgates burst after what Joanna Macy said, and she was absolutely correct. All the energy that I had been using to suppress my grief over what was happening.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, how can our audience or our people get in contact with them to see if they could duplicate your experience?
Well, you just have to go to Pachamama, www.pachamama.org. It is spelled PACHAMAMA.org. And you can find a place near you all around the world where that introductory seminar is being given. And since that time, they have developed other superb educational and informational and consciousness raising activities as well, that are all available online now. So that was the first thing that they did after the Pachamama Alliance was formed. But now there are even more resources. You can just learn a tremendous amount. You can become highly educated and learn the tools that you need to be an effective environmental activist.
It's all there.
It's there. All there.
All you need is your motivation and yourself. You have to put in your mind, like, you emptied this grief you had. I've been trying to do messaging about the environment and sustainability and everything we need to do since 2004 when I was on Green America on Air America. And I went through different iterations of different shows, Village Green, The Many Shades of Green, The Green Divas, all with the same message. We need, as a collective people, we need to do something. And Malcolm keeps asking, what can we do? And every show I keep saying, you got to find an organization. You got to get in touch with them. You got to see what they're doing, and you got to give them some time. And, so that's what we need to do. And there's a lot of things. I mean, you said, you gave us a number of things. We were asking some notes, so maybe we could get into some of what people can do based on what you had given us.
Right. I was reading that also. Now, I'm not a joiner. I mean, I agree, I know what's happening, but the thing is, I don't join organizations. Now, what as I or anyone, as an individual, without necessarily getting involved in a movement, what could they do to help the planet as an individual?
Yeah, as an individual. Well, fortunately, there are lots of things. It's possible to take collective action, and it's possible to take individual action or household action too. So as I talk about a couple of the things that I recommended to you when you asked me for some actions, I first want to say that these things are essentially geared toward, and it's the limitation of them, but they are geared toward basically people who are comfortable enough to take some of the actions that I'm recommending. A couple of them are related to food consumption in individual households. And before I start in with that, I want to point out that there are many, many people in America, just a scandalously large number of people for our rich, rich nation, who are struggling every day to put food on the table for their children and their families.
Especially now.
And especially now, are struggling terribly to keep their families in a home, are in danger of being evicted or having their utilities turned off. And I just want to say that talking to those people is a slightly different conversation than the one that I think we're going to have now. And it's important for people to understand that that's a conversation that generally comes under the heading of environmental justice, with an understanding that all of the environmental difficulties that we're going through now, that the whole planet is going through, that everyone on the planet is going through, those have already come to poor people and marginalized people and people of color. Those difficulties have come to them first and worst, and they're already farther into the crisis than we are.
Absolutely.
So
you think about when people are living next to toxic plants, spewing carcinogens and pollutants, and it's not, it's people who are most vulnerable. And when there's issues with food insecurity, it's people who are most vulnerable. However, people are being put into that position now because of what's happening, who've never been in that position before, and are now saying, oh my God, this is horrendous. Look where I am, look what's happening to me. But then they never realize what's happening to all these other people,
Right. All these things are pre-pandemic. I mean, I remember watching, documentaries, I think it was in the Philippines, in Manila, about the poor people who go over the garbage dumps, the kids to get food or to get something, and living in conditions in Africa where villages have to walk hours to get the fresh water to drink. As a matter of fact, they say that the next major war or for territory will be for water.
Yeah, Waterworld wasn't too far off, was it? Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Waterworld will happen with when the icebergs melt, which are doing now. And you guys on the East Coast will be underwater
when they're gone. yeah.
Well, you need our water to get your fires out there in
Mm.
California.
Oh,
There has to
yeah.
be a pipeline underneath to connect everything.
Mhm.
Anyway, let's try to get some things out to people that they can do
Sure, sure. Well,
to help themselves and help the planet.
yeah, with understanding that I'm talking to people who are reasonably comfortable and reasonably secure in their current lifestyle,
Okay.
which, as you've just pointed out, Maxine, many more people are not. But speaking to those people, one thing that is really, really important is food consumption, because in America, in these households that we're talking about, 30 to 40% of the food that's bought uh, in countries with advanced economies does not end up getting consumed. It ends up getting thrown into the household trash and goes into landfills, where it slowly makes its way toward the bottom of the landfill and decomposes without the presence of oxygen and creates methane, which is 86 times more heat trapping than carbon dioxide, which is the heat trapping gas that we usually talk about. And so a relatively simple thing to do, and something that is of immediate benefit to your family as well as to the planet, is to be a little more conscious about the food you buy and making sure that you eat all of it, or eat a bigger portion of it than you may be eating, because not only does that prevent methane arising from your household trash, it saves your household money. Think about it. If you're throwing away 30 to 40% of the food you buy, that's 30 or 40% of your food budget that you're throwing out the window.
So now when you tell your children, eat your dinner,
yeah,
it's more than one meaning.
Yes, right. And model the fact that you're eating all of your dinner too.
Right. Clean your plate, or you don't get to play
That's
with
right. You get into
games. Right.
Make your way into the clean plate club tonight, and this is
well, aside from the fact that we overeat, because most people eat till they're full. They don't have a sense. I have enough. I'm not hungry. I'm satisfied. They eat till they say, "Oh, my stomach is bursting."
It's portions too. It's portion control.
So
that'll help everybody in so many ways, including Mother Earth.
Yes, right. And related to that, this was a major finding of Project Drawdown, which they were somewhat surprised to find. Project Drawdown, for those who don't know, is the global research effort that has been working since 2014 to identify just what we're talking about now, ways to address the climate crisis that you can either undertake collectively or individually. And one of the things that surprised them a bit was the fact that the raising of animals to consume for food is a tremendously greenhouse gas intensive enterprise. And so if people can transit in their lifestyles to a somewhat less meat-centered diet and to a somewhat more plant-centered diet, this would be very, very helpful to Mother Earth, but also to people's health.
Body, right, exactly.
Eating red meat is not a healthy thing. Eating lots of red meat is not. If that's the center of your diet, you're not very healthy, and you're cutting down your chances of, you're increasing your chances of dying prematurely.
Meatless Mondays are
meatless Mondays.
We started in our community here. I know it's been something that there was a project of the high school kids were working on their sustainability club, and trying to get the word out for people. And we were trying to actually get some measure of it by people filling out a questionnaire to see if it was actually working. And then the pandemic hit, and now we're kind of behind in that. Because people just want to survive what's going on. So, but hopefully we'll pick that up and get an idea of what if it's working. If it's
not being too simplistic. What are things that we could do without changing lifestyle? Because all these things that you're talking about is more, well, aside from eating less, but all the things of eating less meat, of animals are fine, but that's a matter of changing lifestyles. Can we do something I'm just thinking of,
How could you not change your lifestyle and change
Well,
what
yeah,
your
I
habit
will,
is?
I
I
can,
don't, maybe, Keith, go ahead.
well, sure, I can answer that, Malcolm. I can give you a couple of things, but the truth is, and I'm sorry if this is a difficult truth for you, the truth is, yeah, people are going to have to change their lifestyles in order to save the planet from environmental destruction. None of us are going to be able to sit back and just live our lives the way we've always lived it. That is not feasible anymore. And I'm sorry if that's up.
I agree with you,
But
but some people need baby steps to take before they can,
No,
go
people
full
need to
hog.
wake up. They need to wake up. Sorry, our parents and grandparents sacrificed in world wars, in the last century, and saved things and saved tinfoil and did whatever they were asked to do. We can't even wear a freaking mask during a pandemic. To have not eating meat on a Monday, is that much of a sacrifice? I don't think it is personally. Whoever thinks it is, okay, but it's a place to start, and behavior is going to have to change. And Keith is right. If they don't change, where are we going to be in 50 years?
Well, as my friends would say, freedom. We want freedom. America is free. Loves freedom. You can't prevent me from doing things, even with the mask. You can't tell me to wear a mask.
Well, that's a third and we're talking specifically in this insane country. But what happened to the other 2/3? They're the majority. The others are the minority. I don't know.
Yeah.
even so, you can, I don't think it's a tremendous change in people's lifestyle. In fact, I think it gives them more options to ask them to shop from time to time at a farmer's market. They're going to have fresher, more organic food, and more, what's the word that is used? More kindly animal raising practices have been in the lives of the meat that they might buy there. So that's an expansion of their options, is to belong to a farmer's market, or
Right.
to get into a community supported agriculture enterprise, a CSA, which is a farm that you buy produce from at the beginning of the year. And then for 6 months of the year, depending on where you are in the country, you have incredibly fresh food.
Mm-hmm.
May have been picked in the morning. And and CSAs, some of them have herbs, some of them have flowers. You meet like-minded people. And the one that we belong to, you see people bringing their kids, and the kids love to help pick the blueberries and the raspberries and the strawberries. Gives young children a connection to land, and they're everywhere. I mean, right here in the very, very urbanized Northeast and New Jersey, where I live, there are 5 or 6 that I know of. There are probably more of these CSAs. And as I said,
We have a lot of them. We have a number of them here in northern Westchester area, and we have a lot of farmers markets, and we have in the schools. There's a number of schools that have they're growing gardens and they're growing produce, and then the produce that's being grown in the schools. Some of the kids are eating it during lunch, but some are given to the local food banks.
mm-hmm.
So it's a double win. And when you see the smile on the kids' faces that they've grown something, they've planted something, they've eaten what they've grown, and then when they had extra, they're giving it to people in need. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a big whoa, so that's
One of
important.
one of the most wonderful memories of my childhood is I spent part of every summer, from the summer that I was born to the entire summer after my freshman year in college, on my grandparents' farm in northern Idaho. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, and spent time with my grandparents in a farm in northern Idaho. And they had a large garden because my grandmother canned the produce and they ate it all winter long. I got to help plant peas with my grandfather. And he would do all of the hard work to get the row ready. And he would show me how deep I had to put my finger in the ground, just exactly how far to put the pea in the hole and cover it up.
Put the pea in the hole and kick it in the can. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something
But I
like
mean, it
that.
was just a wonderful, bonding with my grandfather. Kids love to do that. They love
Yeah.
to garden. They
Well,
love
well,
it.
to tell you how different our backgrounds are, I grew up in Brooklyn, not too far
Uh-huh.
away from where Maxine lived. And
Uh-huh.
when I bought fruit, I bought it at a market or a fruit stand. I
We had
never,
fruit
I
store.
never, I knew they grew on trees, but I never related to that. When I came out to California, and you see all these orange trees and
Lemon
different type of
trees.
trees, and friends of mine would pick the fruit off the tree and eat. And I said, "How can you eat that fruit? You know, it hasn't been processed through the vegetable store. That you could be poisoned."
Yeah, right.
That's
It's
City
dangerous.
Kids
Isn't that
versus Green
dangerous?
Acres.
And until this day, if I pick up an orange off a tree, I go, "Is it good?"
It's gonna be okay? Is this gonna be okay? Yeah, yeah.
Hey, it is okay because I've had some lemon trees off my sister-in-law would give me lemons off the tree in their backyard.
But anyway, guys, our time is almost up, believe it or not.
Oh,
Oh boy,
golly.
we have to have
We-
Keith
We've
back
gone
on
through
because
about a half hour. What I'd
we
like
didn't
you to
get
do,
through everything.
Keith, what I'd like you to do is, number one, tell your friends about the show and what we're after. We are trying to create awareness,
Mhm.
to the people who might be at home. Most of my friends are aware, but people who might tune in to this show to find out information.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
again, the way we do it is through the social media.
Mhm.
Right.
And so if you tell your friends about the show, and then again, malcolmpresents.com, the many shades of green. I keep on saying
Right.
gray. The many shades of green.
green.com, and then we have also Twitter, at TM Shades of Green, also through the Green Divas, also through drawdown.org and pachamama.org and 350.org. There's so many organizations that you can get information, and we need to do this. And
I'd love to get other guests from Pachamama,
Okay,
to talk
cool.
about what they're doing. So if you speak to people, get in touch with me or with Maxine.
Not a problem.
We could do forums the same way we have 3 screens. I could do, I don't know how many I'm limited to, but I know I could do at least 10 screens that we could have 10 people doing, social roundup.
Okay, great.
And
Sure.
again, because the more I'm into it, the more I'm getting a bit frightened, not necessarily for me, but for my kids. I mean, I have
Yeah.
2 boys, 25 and 24.
Mhm.
And this is their world, and any grandchildren that I have, I want the planet to be inhabitable, to be
Right.
not where
Yeah.
they have to walk around with gas masks.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Bad
So,
enough we're walking around with masks now. I can't.
Yeah, but
imagine.
it's not to breathe the oxygen.
yeah,
Right.
so this is what you're doing, Malcolm. You said you're not a joiner, but this is what you're doing. This is your piece. And
Well,
once
I'm
you raise
start.
consciousness,
Yeah, no, I'm
once you raise
starting. Yeah, I'm
consciousness, people can
starting.
find
Yeah.
what's right for them. We've all got a role to play, and this is yours, and it's great. Thank you for doing this.
Well, I found my medium that I can express myself.
Right, exactly. And everyone can find their own role. Once they get excited about doing something, then they're off and running, and it's
Right,
different for every single
and we'd
person.
love to have you back. And again, maybe you back with a group of your people. And if there's
Well, we're gonna
anything,
have him back with Ellie. Ellie couldn't join us today, but she'll be she was on one of our previous shows, Keith,
Uh-huh.
and she's gonna be on again. And we're still also Green Divas. So we do that, and we're just trying to get as much past the choir. There's the choir.
Yeah,
But
right.
we need to be way past it right now because we're just on
Yeah.
in the tipping point at this,
yeah,
and we need
well,
to-
Maxine, tell the people how they can get to that clock that you sent me. How much time we have left to
Oh yeah,
change the world.
if they just Google the climate clock, New York City. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but
Oh, okay.
they can check it out. Just go to climate clock New York City, and it'll give you the how many days to the tipping point. I don't know how they calculated it, but the clock is in Union Square in New York City.
Yeah, well, I think people somehow are assuming, oh, there's plenty of time. And
Yeah, no.
and excuse me, there ain't plenty of time aside from killing the. We see this year, I keep on saying California.
Right, the
We've
fire.
had over 4 million acres of forest burned. The previous year was 1.8 million.
Yeah, just
That's
tragic.
over double, and it's still not the end of the year, and we're still having these heat waves.
Yeah.
Back east where you guys live, you're having more severe hurricanes.
Yeah,
There are tornadoes where there've never been tornadoes.
mhm.
It's happening now. They
Yeah,
talk about
yeah, it's not a future thing.
yeah,
It's not a
it's now.
future thing. We're in it.
The future is now.
In it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's drawdown. The time is now, right,
Yeah.
Keith? That's one.
Anyway, guys,
All right.
thanks much,
Thanks
Keith,
so
thank
much,
you
Malcolm.
so
Good to
much,
meet you,
Keith.
Malcolm.
and we'll send your.
We'll have a shorter interval between now and when we meet again.
If we get more guests, we might have to extend the show to an hour. I think
Okay,
because we have no limits.
Right.
Anyway, guys.
Thanks,
All right.
Malcolm. Thanks, Maxine. We'll be in touch. We'll be in
Enjoy
touch.
the
This was
debate
great.
tonight.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
the debate. Hey, have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks, Keith.
Uh-huh,
Thanks,
uh-huh.
Malcolm.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.